Hi. Hi, guys. Also, cheers. Cheers. I think this is a very big glass. Possibly could fit a goldfish. But yeah, I'm choosing to my first Facebook Live event with Better Reading. And thank you, Better Reading, for creating this fantastic opportunity for writers. I love that something that was created during COVID, as a response to COVID, has sort of grown its own legs and will obviously have a life beyond COVID because it's such a great concept. Because we love talking about books, right? Especially at night. Hi, Christine. Nice to meet you. Guys, please tell me where you're tuning in from too. I'm coming here from Perth. It's 6 o'clock here, so everyone on the East Coast, it's 2 hours later. You're probably either finishing dinner or putting kids to bed or thinking about what you're going to watch on Netflix or what life's all about. I'm here hi, Sharon. Hi, Christy. Blue Mountains, lovely. Oh my gosh. Sunshine Coast, Tracy. That's where a large part of my book is set. Half of it's sort of Perth, and then half of it is my character's retreat and recovery at the Sunshine Coast, because just between you and me and everyone else listening, the Mooloolaba Surf Club is my happy place. That's where I love to go when I can. Hi, Jessica. Great to have some faces here and names, and what a beautiful way to connect. This is so great. So maybe I could start telling you about some of the reasoning or the rationale behind this book, why I started writing it. Hi, Lynette's Lullaby Babies. That sounds like a gorgeous business. And Kate from Grafton in New South Wales, also a beautiful part of the world. Welcome, everyone. So the short elevator pitch for this book is that it is about a very experienced marriage counsellor who gets blindsided by her husband. That is the short elevator pitch, which I'm never very good at, but the long pitch or the genesis for this. Oh, hi, Sharon. Thank you very much for commenting on the cover of the book. I didn't have a lot of, I did have some input, in that I was shown a few options, and I really trusted, though, in a firm press to know where to pitch this in terms of the cover, because while I think I'm, an expert on covers because I love books, it's actually a specialty beyond my my skill set. And so, yeah, I was really grateful to be in good hands. Hi, Jane. Thanks so much for the lovely comments on the book. And hi, Melissa from Ipswich. Yay, Queenslanders. Love holidaying in Mooloolaba too. Can't wait to get back there. So where this started is that a few years ago, in my friendship circle, and probably a bit wider than that, there were just a slew of relationships that collapsed like dominoes, and some were very close to me. And what I was observing was that even though they were, finishing for all different sorts of reasons, the commonality was the vintage of them. So they were all about 15, 20 plus years together. And it struck me that this is kind of a time of life where maybe there should be fewer pressures. You would expect there'll be fewer pressures on a relationship. You've already been through the babies and toddler phase and, nascent careers. And it seemed to me that they'd already been through the hard yards on paper. So what was going on here? And I thought that time's an interesting concept, but I became really obsessed with time and what role it plays in relationships, because it seems like sometimes it should be this foundation under things, but then it can also be this weight on top of things that sort of weighs down on a couple after a certain amount of time. And I thought, is it even reasonable to expect, and I'd love to know what people think about this themselves, because this is a question I ask all the time. I love getting everyone's answers because I don't have a definitive answer myself. Are we meant to be together with someone indefinitely? Is that a reasonable proposition, given how much life changes us, and particularly when you reach middle age? you know, or midlife. Hi, Diane from Merimbula. Oh, my Merimbula, it's my husband's favourite holiday spot. He's from Victoria. His family loved holidaying in Merimbula. Beautiful part in the world. So, gosh, where was I up to? Where was I up to? I'm just too busy reading everyone's comments. I thought midlife presents unique curveballs to a relationship. In that I do think, and I'm generalizing here, feel free to correct me, that it affects men and women in different ways. I think that women can be confronted, you know, are really emotionally impacted with perimenopause and menopause. And I don't mean that women call time on relationships because their hormones are going crazy, but because those impacts cause you to look at your life in a different way, through a different lens, and put different values upon it, and maybe be a bit more critical about, you know, how you're being supported and what lies ahead. And men, you know, again, generalizing, and I know gender is very fluid. I'm going to say all the wrong things here, but men can be confronted with their own mortality and relevance deprivation syndrome. So all these things play upon marriages at this point in time, and I was really interested to see some of the statistics around marriage breakups in that time of life, when kids are kind of like maybe almost out of school, but like not quite. And I myself was and am in a marriage of 20 years, and we were pretty wobbly there for a while. And I think that that too made me look at all these things really closely. And when I look at things really closely for a while, particularly when it comes to human relationships, a book project is not too far away, because that's how I work stuff out. And I wouldn't say, you know, I wouldn't say that I necessarily use fiction to make sense of things. I used to think that was the case, but that's actually not what I'm doing. I've realized I'm not making sense of anything. I'm just, what's the analogy? I'm not working out, I'm just lifting the lid on the bonnet of the car and looking at all the bits to see, to better understand all the parts that are making this work. So that's why I find fiction, writing fiction and reading fiction, to be a really important way for me to explore things that I'm grappling with, things that I'm obsessed with, and just understanding the human condition. So I hope that with a book like this, I'm able to, you know, stimulate some conversations, particularly around relationships and parenthood and marriage and relationships and all those pressures, that, you know, the conversations themselves are important to have. They don't have to result in resolutions, and I don't think I necessarily have presented any resolutions in this book. Hi, Sabine. I love that name, Sabine. That was one of my candidates for my kids too. I loved that name, Sabine. If I'd had another one, it would have been a Sabine. Please tell me where you're from too. I know we've got some Queenslanders here, some New South Wales. Anyone here from Perth? Oh my gosh, there's someone from Perth. I think I know that person. Hi, how are you? Good to have you on board. Yeah, great to have you on board. Okay, so feel free to ask me any questions about the book if you've started to read it. I know it's only been out for a couple of weeks, not even that, so maybe you haven't quite read it yet, but if you'd like to know anything more about the genesis of the book, or if you'd like to, Jessica, nice to have you from Camperdown, Victoria. Love Camperdown, very nice part of the world. Well, I just love Victorians, actually. I'm married a Victorian. All my family are from Victoria. So you sort of, you know, you inherit. The thing I love about Victorians is that you inherit a football team when you marry one. The thing I don't love is that I inherited the Carlton football team, so there's that. A lot of people have commented on, the people who have read the book have really liked the character of Rowney, and I wanted to talk a little bit about, oh, hi Elise from Sydney. Lovely to have you on board. So the character of Rowney, I'm not surprised that she resonates with people because she's a real person, and in that she's based on a real person. I met a very, very funny, fierce, big-hearted, overtly Italian woman when my eldest was in primary school in Sydney, in Mortlake, and we have remained friends. And also, even if we hadn't, I would never have been able to forget her because she is just unforgettable. Hi, Carolyn from Sydney. And Jenny, you've been married 42 years and it definitely has not been easy, but still together after 45 years. I love hearing stories like that. And, you know, Jenny, I think that that sort of relationship is the one I particularly look at and interrogate, because I want to know what's going on there. How, you know, when you say it hasn't been easy, what's been the hard bits and how have you got through them? And is it still everything you wanted it to be? And I want to know the happy stories, because I think that's what gives us all hope. And hi, Rosanna. So that's a good question, Rosanna. The marriage, how did I research the profession of marriage counselling? That required a lot of research, because clearly I'm not a marriage counsellor at all. I'm a journalist by trade and a writer, fiction writer, sort of latterly, and don't have actually any other skills. So I was coming at it from zero. I used to work at a university a few years ago running their communications, and part of my role was to promote their research. And oh my gosh, I see that there's my son has just come on board. He's 16 and his comment is, I can't read. Anyway, thanks Carlton for that contribution. So I was sitting in her office one day and I said, look, I've got this idea for a book, Marriage Counsellor Gets Blindsided. Is that implausible? Is that crazy? And she said, Carrie, absolutely not. And here are all the reasons why it's not. And also here are 400 million books of research to take away with you. And she was invaluable. So I really had to research a lot. And she also then reviewed the manuscript to make sure that I'd got it right, because clearly I've not sat in a counsellor's chair in a counselling room. I have sat in a counselling room for other things, but not as a counsellor. And so she was invaluable in making sure I got that part of it right. There was a lot of research involved in this book. Oh, Lynette, we've been together 53 years, and through tragedy that brought us closer. Oh, that's 53 years. Congratulations. That's beautiful. And how often we hear that tragedy divides a couple and doesn't bring them closer, but it's beautiful that that has happened to you, and I'm sorry for your tragedy, but gosh, it takes so much to pull together through grief and trauma, and I imagine that would knit you together forever. Someone has just asked, who is my inspiration when I write? Readers, all of the people on here. I'm constantly thinking about readers and what will, another person asked me recently, like, when did you start writing? And I was thinking about that, and the answer was that my grandma gave me a journal, an empty book basically to write in when I was about 8 or 9, and I started diarising, and quickly I started like making shit up, basically embellishing what I was writing, because it didn't seem interesting enough. Just like daily life isn't that interesting. And so I tried to start to be a bit more florid in my descriptions and just make it more interesting. So I suppose even then I was thinking about the reader and writing a book that readers would connect with, because I wanted to do that from the earliest time, and I still want to do that. The only thing that makes sense about writing books, because a lot of it doesn't make sense, is that you eventually produce this thing in my hands, which And people read it, and some of them contact you and connect with you and tell you their stories, and it's such a privilege when that happens. It's such a privilege. That's why I do it. I don't know, you certainly don't do it for the money. You just do it because storytelling is, I think it's the most basic level of human connection, and people who can tell stories and people who want to listen to stories, they're my people. And I guess they're all the people that are on this page. It's so lovely to see everyone from different parts of Australia. If you haven't already told me where you're from, please do. Yeah, thanks for that comment, Rosie. I think that I've really tried to, my own way of getting through life is that my way of dealing with the dark parts and the hard parts is humour, is just usually inappropriate or self-deprecating humour. That's how I get through. So that's what comes out of my writing too. So this book is, you know, deliberately funny in parts and light in parts, because the light and the shade is what gets me through, and I think it's what gets most people through. Sally, lovely to hear from you. Married for 37 years and you're moving to Ballarat to retire. Congratulations. That's lovely. Hoping you've maybe got some grandkids, and Ballarat's a beautiful place to retire to. And Melissa, how did I make the decision to move from journalism to writing fiction? That's a really good question. There's actually so many parallels, and I think the two have actually been running in tandem the whole time. The desire to write fiction was not a new thing. It's been there from the minute I became a journalist. And the parallels for the two things are, for me, a curiosity in humans, a desire to know their stories, a desire to tell their stories, to talk about their stories, and just the power of the written word. Those things are common to both journalism and fiction, but I wasn't game enough to pursue fiction properly until way too late. Like if there are any, you know, writers on here or wannabe writers watching, do not leave it too late. I thought I had to be like 40 to tell a story, but you don't. You can do it a lot younger, and so many of my favourite writers do it a lot younger. Thanks, Emily, for that question. Have I got plans for the next book? Or is that too far in advance to be thinking of yet? No, it's definitely not too far in advance, because I'm writing another novel for my beautiful publisher, Affirm Press in Melbourne, and this one is already 2/3 of the way through. It's on pause at the moment while I publicise the current book, but the next book is different again. I got obsessed with something completely different, and the elevator pitch for that one, or maybe the tagline, because I don't want to tell like the whole plot, because I've learned from experience that when you start to tell the whole plot of a novel that you're working on, it's like when you tell someone like, oh, I had this dream last night and this is what happened and then this happened and oh my God, you just want to die. So the actual tagline is, it's a novel about beauty, vulnerability, and the healing power of storytelling. Hi, Coral. Cooma, New South Wales, married almost, not sure how many years that is. I think there might be a typo there, but lovely to have you there, Coral. What a beautiful name. Thank you to my son, who continues to comment, and his comment was, what do you think of the haters labeling you as a Karen? Oh my God. Seriously, I've lost control of these kids. So also the other part of research for this novel is that there is a character in the novel who is disabled, and that's something that I had not previously, up until a few years ago, had close experience with. So, oh, Coral, 54 years. Wow. That's, can we get a round of applause for 54 years? Coral, that's beautiful. And I hope that you're still having, you know, fresh conversations and still making each other laugh, because I think that's got to be it at the end of the time, isn't it? Just making each other laugh. Getting back to this character with a disability, in recent years, the other thing that was happening in my sphere besides people breaking up was that two people close to me, or, you know, observed by me in my sphere of observation, had what you would call catastrophic accidents resulting in permanent acquired disability. In both cases, these were tetraplegia. And it was very, very compelling and difficult and upsetting to be close to that. And I find that you want to say and do the right things, but it's so easy not to. And so I found myself researching a lot, or at least sort of looking for ways to better understand and to be a good friend to these people. Most of my answers were coming from nonfiction. They were coming from fantastic podcasts like Dylan Alcott's podcast, Listenable, and other nonfiction sources. And I realised that I wasn't actually finding the answers in fiction. At least in what I was reading at the time, I wasn't seeing this character portrayed. So I started to think, what if I created a character that would enable me to explore this, what this sort of acquired disability, how that would impact their life and their personality. I didn't do that lightly, and a few times I thought about cancelling the whole idea. But hi, Nikki. Thanks for getting your book today. So I did a lot of research in that space again, and a lot of people pointed me in the direction of a fellow in Perth called Mike Rowney. Google him. He's amazing. Look, I hate saying amazing because he doesn't want to be amazing, but I think he is. He had a catastrophic accident in his early 40s. He had been an accomplished sailor, and when he finally came to terms with his new level of ability, he wanted to reclaim sailing as his way of having dominion over his world, and he certainly did that. And he introduced me to his beautiful boat, Gypsy Rose, at Coogee Marina in Fremantle, and sat down with me for many hours and told me, you know, every aspect of his story, and gave me the confidence to write about that. So that's the character of James in the book, who is a potential love interest of our main character, Evie. And I just thought also there were some parallels between Evie and James, in that obviously completely different experience, but parallels in that they both have had life throw them a curveball they weren't expecting and have been forced to navigate their way beyond that. And I thought that James's journey would be something that would appeal to Evie, and that's something I tried to explore. Hi, Jessica. Yeah, thank you. I agree with you. I love the idea of a book with a character who has disabilities because I haven't read enough of it. And you have rheumatoid arthritis and autism, and I would imagine that reading about characters with those conditions too would be something you'd want to see and read more of. Because we need to see ourselves reflected and understood in fiction, and that's what I try to do. And I hope that you're finding those stories that resonate with you, Jessica. Thanks very much for that comment. Thank you, David, for that question. How did I come up with the name of the book? That's actually a really interesting question, because would you believe it came from a funeral? My good friends here in Perth, the Viskovich family, my friend Boris lost his father a couple of years ago to a heart attack, and he was such a good man who'd led a really good life of just, you know, family and community service. He had all the values right, and the funeral was a beautiful tribute to him. And the eulogy was given by a friend of his who said, the way he worded it was, well, there are only so many beats of the heart. And this man, Luca Devore, had a heart condition. And I don't know why those words jumped out at me, and they kind of started to ruminate in my mind because I thought they worked on a few levels, because yes, there are only so many beats of the heart, but also in a positive way, there are so many beats of the heart. And there is still time in this case for, the character of Evie, who, gets shafted at a later or midway through her life, to still find, love and answers and new experiences and new people. I really wanted that to be the takeaway from this book, that, in an uplifting sense, that on the back of the unexpected, there are things that you just don't even know are there. People you don't know that you will meet, experiences you don't know that you will have, and you have to trust in that. No matter what blindside or curveball you're given, I guess that's what I wanted to deliver with so many beats of the heart, is that there are so many beats of the heart. We're running out of time. If there's any more questions, I'd love to hear them. Also, yeah, lovely to see people from South Australia and Tasmania. This is great. I would also love to say that So Many Beats of the Heart has, I guess, some of my own maternal observations infused in there. I've got teenage kids myself, and I wanted to show, I suppose, that I think that a lot of couples who do strike problems early on and decide to stick together for the kids, because they, the assumption is that young kids will be, really impacted negatively, and that's true. That you shouldn't underestimate the impact on older kids too. And which is not to say that sometimes breaking up isn't absolutely the right thing to do. Absolutely. In fact, my parents broke up when I was 16, and it was, in my situation, it was just a huge relief. And sometimes it is, so no judgment there. But I just wanted to portray, so Angus, her son, I just wanted to portray an older boy, 17 or 18, who is not to be, we can't underestimate the impact on him. Thanks, Emily, for that question. Do any characters have quite close ties to real life, or do you find that you draw from different sources? So, as I said, the genesis for this did come from the observation of relationships close to me and friends close to me, but they're not the characters in this book. And so just the structure of the book is such that we do follow Evie's journey, but throughout we go back and revisit other clients that she's had sitting in her counselling room chairs, so that I was able to look at not just one relationship, but many relationships that have gone through many different triggers and impacts. So we explore such things as blended families, the impact of porn addiction. We have a character who, I guess, is a borderline narcissist. We have couples who have been absolutely destroyed by unimaginable grief and trauma. So having Evie as a counsellor and having that device to be able to go back and look at some of the couples that she has counselled over the years enabled me to look at lots of different stresses on relationships. So, but in terms of the sources, most of my research was online relationship forums, just lots of reading up in textbooks, and then running it by my excellent counsellor friend Karen Anderson, the one I mentioned from the university, who has been amazing. Yeah, and just finally, as someone's just noticed all the books in the back there. Oh gosh, don't look too hard at the spines, because half of these are mine and half of these are my husband's, and I don't even think they should coexist, because he's reading, hello, it's Max Walker, and David Baldacci, who nothing, no judgment there. Writing styles that have inspired me in recent years, I've been really inspired by the books that I've loved. Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. I love Ewa Ramsey, The Morbids. I've loved books that have looked at flawed characters with, mental health issues, but have done so in ways that are still humorous and that invite you to take part in the journey without going too dark. Having said that, I've read some pretty dark books in the last couple of years that have just been amazing too. Shuggie Bain was incredible, and I can't wait to read Young Mungo, Douglas Stewart's new one. There are so many good books coming out now. A lot of them were delayed due to COVID, and so now they're just, flooding the market, and it's just what a time to be a reader. And I know that my book's competing with a lot of your reading space, so I totally get if you don't get to it for a while. But thanks anyway thanks to everyone for showing enough of an interest to jump on board tonight. And I really hope that you do enjoy So Many Beats of the Heart. And would love to, find me on social media. I'm a massive social media overshare if there are still questions you want to ask. Thank you so much for your time. And, cheers. Cheers. Here's my big glass.